Couple days later, I get the call that nobody wants to get. And this was the call where they said, hey everybody, welcome back to Lady Luck HQ. Today's video is going to be a lot different than some of my other videos, and today's video is going to be very personal. You guys all see me playing slot machines, traveling, having fun, and I don't really give you a glimpse into my personal life at all whatsoever. And today I want to share this story because my hope is that perhaps it could save somebody's life one day. Now in my family, there's not many hereditary issues except for on the female side. Now, my grandma has had breast cancer, my mom has had breast cancer, several of my aunts have had various different types of cancers. And it's very predominant in both sides of my family. Recently, my husband and I, we've been on this like super health kick. So we've been trying to eat healthy, exercise, and just do better with our health just in general. And we just want to worry less about things that really don't matter. Now, about 5 months ago, maybe 6 months ago now, I had to go into the doctor for my normal, girl doc appointment. And I'm in a meeting with a new doctor this time because the doctor that I was going to, she ended up closing down her practice. Anyways, met with this new doctor and she's going over family history, and I was telling her about everything that's happening in my family and with all my mom, grandma, etc. having breast cancer. And she had me take this like genealogy test, some sort of test to see where you're at on the spectrum of, getting breast cancer yourself. And I took the test, it was a blood test, and it came back that I have a 33% higher chance of developing breast cancer in my lifetime based on my genes. And that was no big surprise to me because obviously I can see that with my family history. So she said to me, now I'm in my 30s, and mammograms are something that start at the age of 45 and above. So I never have had a mammogram, never thought about having a mammogram. And she suggested to me with this percentage that came back with my blood work and with all of the family history that I have, it would be in my best interest to go get a mammogram. So of course I get the script, I schedule the appointment, and I go in for my mammogram. Never had a mammogram before, so I think this is easy peasy. Go in. It really, it wasn't that bad. Obviously you're wearing like this robe, you don't have a bra on, there's this weird machine that you walk up to, you put your boob into it, and it basically presses down on it, and they take all these various random pictures, and you're just in an awkward position. It's more uncomfortable and awkward than it hurting. But I did that, and the technician that was doing this said, oh yeah, everything looks great. So I really wasn't too worried about it. And I was just doing this more out of like precautionary measures because of obviously my family history and that test that I took. A couple days later, I get the call. The call that nobody wants to get. And this was the call when they call you back and they say, you have to come back in because they see something that isn't supposed to be there. So of course, I broke down crying, and I can't help but tear up right now because it just makes me so sad thinking about it. Because in the back of my mind, I know what my mom went through. I mean, I watched her power through it and she's 100% fine. But like that fear, it's real, and I just wasn't ready for it. And just even talking about it, you can see how I'm just not ready for it. It's not the call that you want to get. Anyways, I make the appointment, I go back in, and this next appointment, this mammogram, is a different type of mammogram. And they basically tell you up front that if this mammogram goes well, you leave. If it doesn't go well, they might have to do an ultrasound on your breast. And they kind of prep you for it, but not really. And mind you, like, your state of mind, like, all you're thinking is the worst. And that's all anybody thinks when they get these calls. This happened during COVID. So, like, my husband couldn't be with me. Like, I'm literally in this office by myself, going back in for this other more in-depth mammogram. And this more in-depth mammogram is a little bit more uncomfortable than the other one. They bring you in the room. They kind of do the same thing on your breast, but it's a lot harder of a press, and it's a lot more uncomfortable. It's more, I don't know, intrusive, if you will. It's just a little bit more uncomfortable. Then you go sit in another room, and, like, mind you, you're only in there for like 5 minutes, but it feels like an eternity when you're waiting for an answer. The nurse came back in and said they do see something. They want to do the ultrasound. So we go in, we do an ultrasound, and you can see the ultrasound machine. You're sitting with the nurse or the technician. You're sitting there with them, and they're showing you, and I can fully see that there's definitely something there. And they don't really say much to you because they're not the doctor, so technically they can't. And I was trying to pry things out of this woman, and they just won't. Anyways, what ended up happening is they did find something. They found something in my breast, and of course at that point, you know, they bring you back to the room and they let you know that the next step is a biopsy. And they didn't have any openings for a biopsy that day. So I scheduled it for the very next day. They had an opening the very next day, thank God, because I was a wreck. When I say I was a wreck, I was just a complete and utter wreck. Like, my mind was just not in the right space, especially knowing everything that happened to my mom and to my grandma and it's in my family. It's a complete wreck. So I go back in the next day, can't have my husband with me, can't have anyone with me. It's just me. They go in and they do the biopsy, and I do have a lump. I can see it. It's 100%. You can see it on the screen. You know what they're going for. They numb you up, so it doesn't really hurt. Again, it's just more uncomfortable than anything in the world. And they basically take this, like, needle and stick it in you and pull out like a spaghetti sample of your breast. And they do it in a couple different areas. And then once they complete that biopsy, they actually put in a tracker or a marker. It's this really small, tiny metal object that marks where they found the lump or whatever they're calling it. It just marks where they actually went in to sample, you know, what was going on. And then from there, you know, the doctor comes in and they kind of go through all these, you know, all the possibilities that it could be, you know, what next steps could be, but they don't have any results yet. So as the doctor's sharing all of this with me, like, I am complete wreck, crying. Like, it was one of the most horrific experiences I've ever had. And it's just one of those things that you just don't want to go through. I was physically, like, I was fine, but emotionally I was not fine. They said that they would get the results within a 24, 48-hour period. And so I go home. My husband and I both take off work the next day. I was just not in the right state of mind. I get the call. It was not even 24 hours later. Everything came back benign. Benign. I am so grateful and so thankful that it was benign and that nothing happened, but it was the scare of a lifetime. And the reason why I'm sharing this story with all of you is because as a woman in her 30s, I would have never gone to get a mammogram. I only went because of the history in my family and because my doctor really pushed me to do it. Never in my life would have I done this any other time. And my hope is, if you are watching this and you are a woman in your 30s and you have family history of certain types of cancers, maybe it's not even breast cancer, maybe it's something else, get tested. Be proactive, because the sooner they find something, the sooner they can fix it. And I just wanted to share my story with the hopes that it could potentially save somebody's life. Anyways, sorry to get so emotional on you guys. I wanted to share some real life experiences with you. And once we found out that everything was okay, we popped a bottle of champagne and of course had some Taco Bell because Taco Bell's my favorite. I hope you're all having a great day. Until next time. Bye everyone.